everyone, this is Enzo Eigen and welcome to my channel. Today I want to take a close look at the physical resistance mastery. With Alliance War becoming so much more important with the introduction of seasons, it really has introduced a new style of gameplay as you fight in these battles. The biggest issue is you tend to be, or at least I do, a lot more conservative because you don't want to die because every death is critical. So my mastery in my defensive tree has become a lot more defensive, and I've added a lot more points to this. I used to almost totally ignore this mastery in favor of ones in utility and offense. But now what I've started doing is really maxing out both energy resistance and the physical resistance mastery, as well as point-to-point and willpower. This I feel like gives me an extremely defensive setup and allows me to limit the amount of damage I take. So I'm sacrificing a lot of points to get these masteries maxed out, and I wanted to know how effective are they. So I've designed this test to try to collect some data on the masteries and see what the effect of them are. So as you can see here, I found a Daredevil and I decided to let him beat up my Hulk for a while. So I just dueled and basically I didn't do anything except took damage from various attacks. And from all these attacks I would collect and see how much light attacks did, medium attacks, criticals of light, critical, medium, and heavy attacks. And then I'd go and change my mastery each time in physical resistance. Of course I needed one in energy resistance to get there, and then see what the effect was with that change. And then I just repeated this process with 2 points in the mastery, 3 points, and then finally it maxed out at 4 points. I could see from just watching these duels that having points in this mastery did mean my Hulk was taking less damage on light and medium attacks. I did notice that the critical attacks didn't seem to have any difference whether I had points in it or not. My first impression was that I was not very impressed by the change in damage, but I was willing to let this experiment play out and collect all the data before making any judgments. So after these duels were complete, I collected all the data in a spreadsheet. My method of measure was to take the amount of damage having points in this mastery and comparing it to having none, the baseline. As you can see, the results are fairly consistent. For 1 point, you get about minus 1.3%, 2 points about minus 2.6, 3 points minus 3.9, and 4 points is just over minus 5%. I was very interested to see that critical attacks had no change when you had points in these masteries. It went down very little, 1 or 2 points for every 2 points you had in this mastery, but essentially this mastery does not do anything against critical attacks. I guess I was surprised by this. I had just assumed that critical attacks would also be affected, but somehow they seem to be exempt from this mastery. So I wanted to see if these results were consistent. So I tried to find a very similar champion to do the same process again and have them duel. So again, I took all my defensive mastery points out, so I'd start with 0 physical resistance. Then I found a 550 Black Widow, again another skilled champion, very similar, just to see what the results would be like when I used her against my Hulk. So I repeated the exact same experiment. I put 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 points in physical resistance and let her beat up my Hulk and collect all the data from it. So once again I collected all the data. Again, there were small variations in each different category, but the data is close enough that I think you can make fairly consistent observations. I took both Daredevil's data and then I was going to compare it directly to Black Widow's data. I averaged out sort of all the different changes for each of the hit types, the light, the medium, and the heavy, and use that as sort of my baseline analysis. As you can see, both characters had very similar data, and again, I'm pretty comfortable saying that the reduction in 1 point is about minus 1.3%, reduction 2 points about minus 2.7%, 3 points about minus 3.8, and 5 points is about minus 5% for both characters. So a lot more confident in the results right now. To test the validity of this data, I went and found a much different character to have my Hulk fight against. So I went to the Legends leaderboard and I found the 5th ranked person, which is Big Bion, and he has a 5-star rank 5 blade. And so I figured this would give me a good chance to see if the data worked for a much different type of character. Of course, the fight was much shorter since Blade is so much more powerful, but again, I'm able to find the numbers for light, medium, and heavy attacks, which I did. I did exactly the same that I'd done with Daredevil and Black Widow. I went through 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 mastery points and looked at the damage caused by light, medium, and heavy attacks. Blade's interesting because he sort of has double the damage on the heavy attacks, so I actually had to collect 2 values. Then it was back to the spreadsheet. All Blade's data and numbers are in there. Again, consistent results that I had with Black Widow and with Daredevil, about the same values. Little variations again, and once more, there's so much going on with this game. It's hard to really perfectly quantify this information I found. But here are the final results in the box screen. You can see that roughly the same whether you have 1, 2, 3, 4 points in this mastery on the damage reduction. So I'm trying to decide if this mastery is worth it. It takes a lot of points, 8 for both energy and physical, to get this minus 5%, and it doesn't include critical attacks, which seem to not be affected. So I decided to do one more test, and that was to see if it helped with block damage, since especially in Alliance War, I'm doing a lot of blocking, and I wanted to see if this made a difference. So to test against block damage, I went back to the Blade. I was tired of changing my masteries, so I just did 2 trials, one at 4 points in physical resistance and another with none. I was expecting to get the minus 5% change, which if I did, I think would again help confirm that this data was fairly accurate. I took all the data again, and I was happy to see that it more or less corresponded to what I expected. So taking a look at the difference between having the physical resistance maxed and having none in it was about the same 5% for block that I also found when I was just being hit by light or medium attacks. My conclusion from this test is that putting maximum points in these resistance masteries gives you about minus 5% damage reduction. There's a lot more tests you could do to confirm this. I would be interested to see with Iceman's Cold Snap if having maxed out points in energy resistance gave you also a minus 5% decrease in that damage. I'll try to do that test soon just to see what the results will be like. Going back to the question, is this mastery worth it? It's really hard for me to decide. Minus 5% is a good amount, but as you can see, these last numbers I've run are the difference in block damage if you have this mastery. So you save 14 points for light and 23 for medium from blade, and if you get hit 35 times and 15 times respectively, that's a saving of about 835 health. It's not really that much, and considering these characters have 20,000 boosted, 30,000 health, I'm not sure if it's worth 8 points in masteries to get the savings. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting. I enjoy looking at the math behind this game to try to use it to help me play better. Please leave any feedback or comments below. Goodbye.